Welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls Podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, theories, and more.
We're doing a bonus episode today on Xaden's point of view chapters from the Fourth Wing Special Edition. Before we dive into these bonus chapters, please listen to our content warning today. It's very important. We talk spoilers, including all of Iron Flame. That is right. Everything from both books, Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, plus anything else from Rebecca Yarros, including that recent Variety article, is on the table.
Did you hear her? Everything from Iron Flame. There is a major spoiler that we will be talking about in Iron Flame, even though, yes, these are Xaden POV chapters from Fourth Wing. So if you don't know why mental shields are so very important, you better leave.
We'll be here when you finish the book. Don't worry. And of course, Fantasy Fangirls is rated R. We are adults who talk about adult things about an adult book.
Look, I will be determining whether Xaden is a boob or an ass man in this episode, and yes, there is a very clear answer. And now it is time to be in Xaden's mind and get bonded with our new favorite dragon, Sigale.
Before we begin our dive into these stretch of chapters, let us begin with our battle brief or our summary of what happens in these Fourth Wing chapters 9 and 16, Xaden point of views.
Chapter 9, Xaden is ready to take Violent Sorengale onto her back with sparring, you dirty-minded friends. After a quick mothering moment from Sigale, giving Imogen his weapons and locking down his mental shields in place, the fight begins. Catching a dagger Violet throws his way, Xaden takes Violet to the mat after grabbing another one of her daggers and kicks it towards Dane. This will be a theme in this chapter. Violet recovers and attempts another move, and we get our beautiful Shadow Daddy's line, "Going for blood today, are we, Violence?" And kicks another one of her daggers towards Dane. Xaden offers her a hand, which our brilliant fucking woman stupidly takes, and he pins her arms to his chest. And he disarms her again, kicking another dagger towards Dane. Xaden leans in for teaching reasons and reluctantly realizes she smells good. But he also gives her some friendly advice. Don't trust anyone you face on this mat. He also thinks about needing to keep his mouth off her, and we get a perfect "since when do I think about putting my mouth on an opponent" line. But mouth thinking aside, he kicks another one of her daggers towards Dane. After a noble but incomplete attempt at throat punching Xaden, our, again, brilliant fucking woman does the same swipe kick move as earlier, and he tisk as he kicks another dagger towards Dane. This is a drinking game at this point. Violet circles Xaden and he eggs her on, but thanks to those handy dandy shadows of his, he dodges her next move and flips her onto her back. He joins her on the mat in a submission hold and gets another dagger and another and flings them both at Dane. Then he takes another dagger, but different this time. He holds it to her throat. Kinky, my guy. Whispering in her ear, he admits to being aware of her little poisoning game and chastises her for not practicing on the mat. I mean, fair. We get some delicious enemies to lovers banter, but Zaddy gets distracted with the symmetry of her face and goes to the mat like a tree. Holy shit, Sigale will never let him live this one down. Violet attempts a headlock, but Xaden takes her thighs, rolls her on her back, and puts his forearm up against her. Lightly, and his hips are pinned onto hers. As Violet attempts a shoulder wound, Xaden easily blocks it by capturing her wrist and pinning it above her shoulder. This is a dream! And Violet's gaze flicks to his mouth. Xaden orders her to get her daggers and guides her hand to show her several different and helpful ways to kill someone that is more suited to her size. After some meaningful glances, and Dane fucking interrupts. But Xaden, still having her pinned onto the mat, says what everyone in Fourth Wing is thinking. Dane is holding you back. State the fucking obvious, my guy.
Dun, dun, dun!
Oh, if only he's read Iron Flame. Xaden releases her, not without a quick thought of taking her to the nearest empty room just to see how attracted they both are, which makes Nicole's pulse skyrocket. And then he returns to Imogen, and being all wing leader-y, he tells Dane he needs to get better at teaching. Thank you, Xaden. Xaden then heads towards Garrick, being such an observant best friend. He has his fun fucking with Xaden, but Xaden is not in the mood for teasing, so he shoves Garrick and walks far, far away from Violet Sorengale. Skippy. Chapter 16. It's right after threshing, and Xaden is hiding in the shadows, overhearing, in true god fucking damn it Dane fashion, Dane giving Violet the Taryn and Sigale Xaden manipulated threshing speech. Ugh. Dane's fingers dig into Violet, and Xaden has the fuck you do moment, and steps out from the shadows, not before putting up his mental shields. Yes, that is important. We'll talk about it. Xaden is about ready to beat his codex-loving ass, but Sigale is like, calm down, you horny little man. But after Atos is like, did you step in? Zaddy gives his big old, did I think her bravery was as admirable as it was fucking reckless speech? But Violet pushes him a little further, and he, well, the fuck awares her, which is one of my favorite lines in that book, and then mentions Sigale and how she too saw Violet at threshing. Sigale comes in with a, you did not just bring me into this nonsense. New favorite character, Sigale. So Dane concedes smartly, and we get this big question to Dane. Would Dane really give a shit about Xaden stepping in if he knew it would have saved the woman he calls his best friend? And Sigale is like, this is cruel even for you. Give me more Sigale. Xaden orders Dane to answer, and he does, even looking all guilty at Violet and shit. And Xaden feels a little bad about it. But the dragons return, and Xaden dismisses Dane, and a pissed off Violet leaves, dismissing Xaden, surprisingly. Xaden easily catches up and saves Violet from getting absolutely sideswiped by a dragon. Again, brilliant fucking woman. As Xaden is giving her the "your life is now my life" speech, he is most definitely not checking her out. Nope, not at all. Not thinking about her ass in a way that makes Nicole sweat. Garrick walks towards them, and Xaden gives them the not now look. We get more Sigale and Xaden banter as Taryn and Andarta land. Again, I fucking need more Sigale in my life. Xaden walks away towards Sigale and stands by Garrick, and Garrick pulls out every "you're my best friend and I'm gonna fuck with you" line in the book. Xaden opens his mental shield and feels a silver strand and immediately knows it's Violet. And just as he does that, Violet starts looking at him from across the field. Yes, we will be talking about that moment. And just as him and Garrick are deciding just how to keep Violet alive, Xaden looks around and sees the perfect bodyguard, Liam, the answer to all of his problems. But Garrick comes in with a, maybe let her try it on her own first. Why have we not gotten more Garrick? What a logical creature. He even calms down a jealous Xaden, worrying slightly about Liam and Violet fucking. You have nothing to worry. Oh shit. Then Dane comes up behind Violet and begins unlacing her armor on the fucking flight field. Our Shadow Daddy is about to hurl. Garrick is like, relax, my guy. There is nothing to worry. And Dane kisses Violet. Xaden freaks and comes up with the perfect mental insults that I will absolutely be stealing. But then he notices Violet's face, quote, looking like she just accidentally kissed her cousin. Garrick is giddy, and Sigale laughs at Xaden unsuccessfully making plans to stay as far away from Violet Sorrengail as possible.
I just want an entire book from Xaden's point of view only so that we can get more Garrick and Sigale. All right, Nicole, this is a mini bonus episode. There was nothing mini about that battle brief there, but knowing that some people haven't had a chance to read the Xaden POV chapters, wanted to make sure that we did a play-by-play there. But now let's go ahead. Let's tap into our Signet Powers. Let's talk about the key insights, reflections, foreshadowing. Not so much theories today, but talking about all of the things. And remember, this does have spoilers for Iron Flame. So please only listen further if you have read Iron Flame.
So first off the bat, these were not necessarily the two chapters I would have expected. After reading the Variety article, it makes a lot more sense why these were chosen. Originally, I was thinking we'd get some kind of drop-off mission, or at least a conversation with Imogen, Garrick, and Bodhi, something we haven't seen yet, really and truly like a totally new scene. But now it makes a lot more sense after reading the Variety article, because the interviewer asked Rebecca about like, why these two scenes? And she was like, well, because his mental shields are up in these two scenes. And the only reasons she can't, or she couldn't, write a Xaden POV chapter before we get that mega download that Xaden's an intrinsic. And yes, I was right. And I will be squeezing every morsel out of that as possible. But once we get that download, once we get that information, we now know Xaden's biggest, darkest secret that would have kept us away from a Xaden POV chapter. So it makes a lot more sense now having gone back. But even Rebecca in this article did mention these are not chapters that are new information. These are not like huge, big, monumental chapters. Like we've gotten a few bonus chapters for the Akatar series, and absolutely no spoilers, but they do have really bigger moments in them. And these are definitely not that case. And now it makes a lot more sense. I do wish we'd gotten something more, or at least something new, especially now that Xaden's secret is on the table. I wish we'd gotten these like 2 weeks later. The special edition book would have dropped 2 weeks later, so we would have gotten another chapter from Xaden's POV, now having the intrinsic information.
I definitely agree, wishing that we had gotten something like totally new and different. Knowing that he doesn't really use his intrinsic power on like the people closest to him, at least from what he says, or at least thinks he doesn't purposefully do it, we could have still gotten a POV with him and Garrick and Bodhi and Imogen or something along those lines. But I totally understand the reasoning behind it. And I do like this little bit of insight here that we get with him kind of starting to recognize that he's attracted to Violet. And I really liked getting chapter 16 in particular because it does have new aspects of a scene that we're very familiar with. And all of this new stuff that we get is based around the conversation between him and Sigale. Like, I just love their bond and all of that juiciness there. And then, you know, how he watches her and Dane's kiss, like that line about how it looks like she accidentally kissed her cousin is just like, oh my gosh, Xaden, I want you to be my new best friend.
I want him to be way more than my new best friend.
Yeah, right. And, you know, we have to think that chapter 9 was a lot more action-based. So naturally, it was just more simply his narration of their hand-to-hand combat and not so much of a lot of new material, right?
I did mention this in the battle brief, but like last overall thought before we get into the meat of each of these chapters, getting to see more Garrick and Sigale. I was shocked we didn't get more Garrick and Iron Flame. And I'm really, especially after these bonus chapters, I'm kind of bummed about it. Like Sigale, I guess it makes sense in hindsight. You said something in our reactions episode, like Sigale is with Xaden. They are yeeted on out of Bezgaius. So it makes sense that we didn't get more of her. But at least Garrick, like I wish we'd gotten more of him. So I hope for book 3, that's just going to be my new motto for the next months as we cover this book. I just want, everything is just going to be like, well, here's to hoping for book 3.
Although we certainly still get a lot in book 2. These Xaden point of view chapters, they make me fall in love with these two, Garrick and Sigale, so much. Like, especially Sigale. She is everything that I ever wanted and more.
She's everything I didn't know I needed and more. Like, I love her.
Yes.
All right, let's dive into chapter 9. Let's get into the meat of this stuff. So the big thing is these mentions of shields. And we get them in actually both chapters, but we're really going to cover them here. When I first read this, I read this before I read Iron Flame. And the second I saw the word shields, I was like, oh my God, he's an intrinsic. Like, that was just confirmation for me.
I have to pause here and share my perspective and our Discord members' perspective when we read these POV chapter, because most of us read it before reading Iron Flame. So when I first read this, which was, again, before Iron Flame, I was like, yeah, this is capital P proof that Xaden is not an intrinsic. Someone in our Discord even wrote something like, RIP to Nicole, who died on her intrinsic hill. Like, we were all laughing at Nicole for thinking, oh, Xaden's an intrinsic.
I do just want to say, though, that person did reach back out to me and they said, I owe you a formal apology. I love you, person. Thank you so much.
Like how I had to formally apologize to everyone about Jack fucking Barlow, which I'm still not over. But so yeah, we were all like, you had a great argument, Nicole, but it just isn't the case. And meanwhile, Nicole is texting me that this mention of shields means that he has to be an intrinsic. And these POV chapters only made her lean even more into this theory. And I was like, yeah, okay, Nicole, like, okay, you just can't admit to being wrong on this one. Like, you gotta let it go. Everyone who can wield power shields, like the marked ones were saying, Violet has to learn how to shield against Dane. Like, shielding is a big theme among our characters. So it was totally reasonable that Xaden is just shielding for extra precaution against potential, mind wielders. And then chapter, what was it, 55, chapter 50 something of Iron Flame happens. And it was so late at night as I was listening to this before bed. And as soon as I heard Violet ask, what's your second signet? I was like, oh my God, Nicole was right. Nicole was right. And I had just been rubbing in that she was wrong because of these Xaden POV chapters. And like any big sister, I was simultaneously so proud of my sister for holding to her guns that this absolutely proves he's an intrinsic. And at the same time being like, well, shit, I'm never going to live this down.
No, you will not. You will never live this down. Pride emanating off of me. And like, I was not the only one on the internet. There were many believers, and we were right believers. Give yourself a little pat on the back. I'm so proud of us. Now, going back to the shields and how big of a role they do play in the story, not only in these POV chapters, but in Iron Flame as a whole. Like, we get shields. I don't even know how many times the word shield is mentioned. It's interesting seeing how everyone in Iron Flame, at least because we're looking through Violet's mind, is putting up shields to block people out. Like, blocking Dane out, blocking, any other like powers out or stuff like Varish, blocking Taryn and Andarna, at least as much as she can, out. But it's cool seeing it the other way around. Seeing Xaden put up his shields as a way to not read people's minds. I do think it's both ways. It's also so Dane, because he even says like not when a memory reader is around. So I do think it's going both ways. But here's my question though, because I guess he can't use his powers if his shields are up. But this is where my question comes from, is at the Athbane meetup in Iron Flame, this is in part 2, Xaden uses his powers on a leader who had her shields down stupidly. He most definitely would have had his shields up at a meeting, but he was also talking to Violet, which means his shields were down. So that just felt a little like, oh, that's out of character. So I am a little confused on like, I guess shields up means no intrinsic. I guess shields down means intrinsic all the way. But like, does he choose to use his powers? I'm guessing so, because he says he's not going to use them on Violet. I'm getting into Iron Flame talk too much, but here's what the Variety article did say word for word on with Rebecca mentioning these chapters. She says, quote, I chose those 2 scenes very carefully because they're scenes in which he would naturally have his shields up. Because one of the reasons you can't be in Xaden's head is you would know what his second signet is from the get-go. So those were 2 scenes that he had to keep his shields up. So I'm just a little confused on how this works, but I do love the fact that these were chosen so carefully for this specific reason.
So my understanding is that he is keeping his shields up in this instance mostly because of Dane, because while yes, you know, it's about touching, like he's not taking any chances. The whole idea here is precaution. I believe that is shields up so that Dane or anybody else, I'm calling them mind wielders. I can't remember if that's the right word or not, but yeah, there are plenty of mind wielders and they are among the leadership. They are among the leadership's minions. Like
we still don't know what Atos' signet is. So like,
yeah,
there is some shit on the table that we still don't know.
So it makes absolute sense that he has his shields up. But to your point there, does him having his shields up automatically mean that that his intrinsicness is blocked out as well? I think that him having his shields up and then like him being able to still use his intrinsic ability, it's a little bit more complicated than just like black and white in that way. I think that in this instance, because he is around people of Basgiath, he knows he cannot trust anybody because of all of the mind wielders among them, including Dane. So he just has to have that up as a precaution, not necessarily in regard to his being an intrinsic. And that could be both to make sure that he protects all of his secrets, and that includes both Orisha and the Revolution, and his ability as an intrinsic.
Going back to what I said in the reactions video, I want more understandings of how his signet works, specifically a POV of him discovering his signet and mastering it. I think that we do kind of need that as readers. And Rebecca's hinted that we are going to get some stuff along those lines in book 3. Now, she's a masterful hinter, so we'll see what that actually ends up looking like. But I do love that both of these scenes were picked specifically because Dane is around. But here's one of my big questions around this Xaden intrinsic stuff. How did he not because Violet doesn't know how to shield yet. She doesn't have that mental capacity. How did he not figure out her poisoning sooner with him being an intrinsic? Like, she was thinking about it when they were in the tree scene. He would have immediately picked up on it. And in the POV, it's like it took him 2 weeks to figure it out. I'm like, Xaden, you're smarter than that, my guy.
I was definitely wondering about this too. You know, when he says, you know, it took him all of 2 weeks to realize she's somehow figured out who she'll be facing. It's still like 2 weeks is still a pretty fast amount of time. And so my guess is that he hadn't quote unquote caught her intentions, specifically regarding poisoning people in those first few weeks. Like even when Violet caught them under the tree while she was gathering ingredients, like you were just saying there, he was focused on her intentions about telling anyone about them being at the tree. And so I wonder again that we definitely have a lot of questions about his signet, but I think that because that was more of the forefront of her mind about the current situation at hand and not necessarily her initial reasoning why she was there. I'm curious about that too, but that's my way of explaining it. You know, chapter 9, when I first read it, made me wonder if we underestimated Dane's power, and it really wasn't just touch from the distinct phrasing about locking Xaden's shields in place when Dane is around. However, then we got chapter 16 Shield's comment about slamming his mental shields down just like he does every time he's near anyone. And so that made me realize, oh, it's much more of a standard precaution that he's always got going on. I love Xaden's comment about Dane. Well, I love all of his comments about Dane, but this one in particular about Dane being too straight-laced to really be the best. It's so true. But you know who was a fair fighter and still the best?
The meaning of was really clued us in there because yes, it's definitely Liam. Now, here's the other big theme, I'll say, of chapter 9 is Xaden pretty blatantly going back and forth between should I kill her, should I not? Like, yes, it's a lot more nuanced than that. But there's two things I want to talk about in regards to this. One, pulling from the Variety article, Rebecca mentioned that some people had pulled, I've been yours for longer than you can imagine, and how that might have meant Brennan was telling stories about Violet to Xaden and how that made him fall in love with her. And Rebecca flat out said, absolutely not. Like, that's weird, because he would have fallen in love with a 14-year-old girl that Brennan hasn't seen in 6 years. And she's like, that's weird. No, like, he was definitely going back and forth, like, should I kill her? Should I not? So I really enjoyed having that context from Rebecca and then rereading this. I do love the dichotomy of Chapter 9's mildly contemplating, like, I'll just snap her neck and she'd be dead, versus Chapter 16 going from maybe I kill her, maybe I won't, to protect her at all costs. But here's my big question here. This is where I feel like the storyline in Iron Flame and the storyline here in Chapter 9 wasn't talking to each other. There is no way he would have had that back and forth in his head without thinking about the deal he had with Lilith. In case you missed it, you should not be here because you should have read Iron Flame if you're here. But he had a deal with Lilith where basically Lilith was like, I will let every traitor's child come into the Riders Quadrant and fight for their lives if I can put 107 scars on your back, and which I have a lot to say on that, but I'm going to save that for our deep dives. And also for a favor from you later. And the favor she ends up trading for with him is you protect Violet at all costs. You make sure she gets through threshing, basically.
Yes, but then there was also the caveat because she also just knows how death can happen in the Riders Quadrant. So it was more of a keeping her alive besides, I'll call it, normal ways of dying. So it was something still like, if she dies in a normal way in threshing, which this would have counted as a normal way, then he's not going against his agreement with her. Same thing with if she just died as a challenge on the mat. That also doesn't count against their agreement.
What would be by his hands on the mat? That seems pretty against their agreement. Now, to be fair, he does say, like, she's in my wing, but she's not in my squad, so I can kill her if I want. But my natural thought progression would have gone to, however, that would have broken my deal with Sorengale or with General Sorengale.
Yeah.
Like there would have been something there. So my big moment here is, why didn't we get any mention of the Lilith Sorengale? The only thing I can think about is because these did release on the same day. Most people like us read this before they read Iron Flame, and that would have, given away this big thing. But that brings me back to, again, I wish we had gotten this like almost 2 weeks after Iron Flame so that all of us could have divulged into Iron Flame and then read these with information from Iron Flame that would have naturally been in Xaden's head during this moment.
I definitely agree with you. They're not talking to each other, right? And to your point, yes. So his deal with Lilith did not extend to normal deaths within the quadrant. So like, for instance, challenges or presentation day or threshing or something to that effect. But their deal was definitely for Xaden to protect Violet from people who hated her because of her last name, which is literally him, right?
Whoa.
And so this is obviously the marked ones, but also it could be other assassination attempts, like what we learn in Iron Flame that Mira fought off. So could he technically kill her in this instant on the mat and not technically break his deal? It's the biggest technically ever, but technically. But again, I don't think it would have actually counted because, that's kind of still not cool, man.
Well, and it's also General Sorengale. Like, she literally said to Violet, Sorengales, they're walked or they fly off the field. They are never carried. And she's like, I was just tortured for 5 days, Mom. So I don't know how far General Sorengale's logic would go there. So to your point, I don't know about that. But it felt like they weren't talking to each other. Like, it felt a little bit like Rebecca Yarros needing to hold back, but because they were released on the same day and she didn't want to give anything away.
I view this whole sequence of them on the mat as Xaden begrudgingly having to protect Violet, and he is very curious about her and obviously attracted. So he's recklessly interacting with her and helping her a little bit. And he does say he doesn't remember the last time he had this much fun, which starts as fucking around to tease her, and it turns into, oh, am I attracted to her? And so it's really cool how it's like that whole thing where it's just like, oh, like, I'm just going to fuck with her. And then it turned into something he was not expecting for himself.
Well, to that same point, those were my major complaints about this. Now I'm going to get into everything that I loved about these chapters. And number one is loving seeing the Xaden and Violet love story from his point of view of him falling for her, and that it was not an emotional connection at first. It was 100% like, I will take her to the nearest room and fuck her until we both admit how attracted we are. But little lines like, it doesn't sit with me well that she, would just be relying on like a carnival trick basically, or she smells so good. Like, I love that shit, and getting to see that was really important, I think, and really special for us. I also love getting to see through the eyes of someone who really knows how to fight. Like, this was so fucking cool. Getting little clues on fighting style, where he shifts his weight, where he lands on her, how he mentions like leaning on his left or like where his thigh is. It cues us into a completely different mindset than Violet, who's like, I roll, like I do this, where he's like, I shift my weight to my left ever so slightly, like stuff like that. Also him offering his hand and her taking it and then not taking it, thank God, being smarter than that. Just him fucking with her and getting to see the mind games and all of that behind fighting was so cool. And then of course him getting distracted about her and then going down like a tree, and him just saying like, holy shit, like those were such cool moments.
I absolutely agree with you. Like, he's observant of what her actual strengths are, and he's frustrated she doesn't know what any of them are, or especially how to use them, and how he just makes himself vulnerable for the very first time since walking through the college to show her, where to go for the kidneys and all of that. I think that's like that. I think that's foreshadowing for the move she uses against the would-be assassin on assessment day in Iron Flame. And then of course she uses his teachings on the Venom at the end of Fourth Wing. So it's really cool just to see all of this play out again from his perspective here. And she does eventually learn and use those strengths that she does have to her advantage.
And I also just love obviously the sexual tension in the scene is just like so good. I fucking love it. And originally, before I read the Variety article, I thought that was the reason why Rebecca chose the scene, is because getting to write from Xaden's point of view, this moment of like, oh, I am very attracted to this girl. Now, obviously, there's other reasons, but I do think that was still one of them. And this is the first time that Xaden realizes the attraction is mutual. Like, he's had attractions to her, and he admits that in this chapter, but him pinning her to the mat with his hips on top of her, which that little clue in was just love it. But getting to see that moment in Violet's eyes where she like flicks to his mouth and him realizing, oh, this is a two-way street. That was really cool. We need to talk about the line about Brennan, because when we're through Violet's POV, he says, I've known better poison masters. And when you're reading that for the first time, it's like, okay, whatever. Then you get to the end of Iron Flame and you're like, oh, fuck, it's Brennan. But getting to see a little blurb from Xaden, and I'm actually just going to quote this word for word. Quote, Brennan would give one of his frustrated sighs if he knew just how obvious his little sister was. Then again, he'd also try to kick my ass for the position I have violence in. I love this for two reasons. One, it shows how much Xaden knows Brennan. One of his frustrated sighs. That you can only say about someone who you know so well. But secondly, this sweet older sibling protection. Like, I wish we'd gotten more of this in Iron Flame from Brennan. We do get a little bit of this, like, in front of me, meh, moments from him. But, like, that lecturing older bro was just so cool. And it just, as a younger sibling, I hear that and I'm like, yep, that checks. That checks entirely.
Yeah, as your husband well knows from when I first met him.
Oh, no, my very first boyfriend, this is a good one. My very first boyfriend in high school, I was freshman, Lexi was a senior, and Lexi stands up in the middle of the cafeteria, points to this poor man and says, that's my sister's boyfriend. Traumatizing.
Okay, first of all, it was in gym, and our different gym classes were like coming. It was not randomly in the cafeteria. There was context around it.
That's the hill you're gonna die on in the story.
I'm just saying, like, make it sound way worse than it is.
The calf is that much worse than the chin. Continue.
After Fourth Wing's cliffhanger, we readers analyzed a lot of Xaden moments and their sudden double meaning, with this, I've known better poison masters being one of the biggies. And I love, like Nicole was just saying, getting his perspective when he teases about poison masters. I have to say, I like that it didn't sit well with him, because it shouldn't. Like, it's kind of like ooh, you said that, Xaden, and then you're saying, well, I never really lied to you. And it's like, that's some serious selective truth telling right there. And also, I just have to point out this totally different thing. Again, context that we now have. Knowing what we know now about his sexual history from Iron Flame, we know a few months ago Xaden broke off his engagement with Kat.
Thank God.
And so because we know that he broke off his engagement the summer before his 3rd year. And so that would have been probably right around, conscription day and whatnot, or a little bit before he went back as a 3rd year. This is within a few months of Violet starting her 1st year here. So anyway, he's probably like, oh, hello, attraction.
Like, I haven't felt this in a long time because that woman was a monster.
Gosh, she's so crazy. I know, we're supposed to like her at the end of Iron Flame, but you got to give us some time here. Quote, defenseless women have never been my type. Indeed, Xaden. Like, dang, you have crazy ex-girlfriend history though, bud.
That means so much more now that we've read Iron Flame. I love that. I did not even think about that. Now, to be fair, Kat wasn't really his type either. He was never like in love with her, any type of thing with her. He just said you can fuck someone and not be attracted to her. Like, you can fuck someone and not have feelings for them, something along those lines. But still, I hope that has the double meaning behind Kat. That makes
she's
so
still
happy.
In some way, shape, or form his type because they have a history together, and she is definitely not defenseless. Oh my God.
No, she's terrifying. I just got to the scene on my reread where they're sparring, and I'm like, oh my God. Well, because she also was trained by Xaden, so it's like I love that so much. We need to talk about Garrick in chapter 9. I will say this a million times in this episode. I need 45,000 times more Garrick in my life. But here's my big question. We still don't know Garrick's signet, right?
I don't think so, because I went back through both Iron Flame and Fourth Wing trying to see if I could figure it out, and I don't think so. We learn Bodhi's in Iron Flame,
so cool.
But I don't think we've ever learned Garrick's. So I wonder if there is a good reason behind that.
I wonder if he's like, because a lot of the signets we're seeing as like almost counteracting each other.
Yes.
So I wonder if he almost, well, I don't know, because Imogen and Dane counteract each other, so probably not. But I was thinking like maybe he has some kind of counteraction with Imogen.
Well, Bodhi's is kind of a counteraction because his is something about absorbing. Yeah, his is like absorbing other signets or something, because
as opposed to
Professor
siphoning.
Carr, yeah, exactly. Which is kind of what, yeah.
I want to know his signet so bad. So I do wonder, like, do we not know his signet just because Rebecca Yarros hasn't, like, figured it out in the story? I don't think so. Or do we not know his signet because it's going to be something really fucking cool that we're going to learn in book 3? I fucking hope so. I love the Garrick and Xaden banter. It's so, like, bro. It's just
it's just 2 guy best friends, and I just absolutely love it. Oh, would you please? I need you to use those big, strong hands to show me. I was just dying laughing through both of these chapters. I absolutely loved it. They were fun. They were refreshing. Like, no, were they like some big info dumps that we might have been wanting or expecting? No, but you know what? It brought smiles to our faces and made our hearts feel all warm and fuzzy. And sometimes that's what you need, especially after what was Iron Flame.
Lord, ain't that the truth. All right, let's go. Speaking of the chapters, let's go into chapter 16. So Xaden getting all protective. I love this moment. Dane like sinks his, I almost says his talons, his hands. Dane like sinks his hands into where Violet is injured, and Xaden like gets really angry. And I love this moment because I read these, I'm crazy. I read these side by side with the chapters from Fourth Wing, from Violet's perspective and then Xaden's perspective. And I love it because in Violet's head, she like doesn't even think twice about it. It's just like so normal to her, which is tragic. But for Xaden, it was like absolutely fuck no. Like, you do not hurt someone like that. So I loved seeing those two different perspectives of it.
I agree. And then he gets all mad when Dane steps in front of Violet, again proving how he always tries to stand by her side instead of in front of her. We know that was a very purposeful thing that Rebecca did throughout all of Fourth Wing, and I just had to point that out again.
I will say there are moments where he meaning Xaden, does stand in front of her in Iron Flame, and I will be clocking every single one of those moments because I think they're very important. But that's a little teaser for our deep dives, friends.
Xaden takes a few L's, let's just say that, in Iron Flame that we will definitely be talking about.
Oh yeah, he takes some big old capital L's. But I do want to know what it was like the year before, so Dane's first year and Xaden's second, because Xaden hates Dane. like absolutely hates him. And I also don't think it's because he realizes like Dane was Violet's best friend from childhood, or because he thinks that, well, I'm assuming he probably knows that Dane is attracted to Violet, especially given the Intensic stuff. Basically, I just need all of Fourth Wing from Xaden's perspective. That's the tweet. That's my TED Talk. I need everything from Xaden's perspective because I want to know what's the rivalry here, because I think it's more than just over Violet. Knowing Rebecca, it's never just that easy.
I've wondered this as well, definitely, because I think we've even speculated it in one of our previous episodes. It's like, I've wondered if Xaden killed one of Dane's friends. And actually, wait a second. What if Dane was friends with
the second son?
What if Dane was friends with King Tari's second son, who we now know Xaden killed during threshing to save, was it Bodhi or Garrick?
It was to save Garrick.
But then how would Dane have known that, because Dane is a year younger? That's the whole thing. Xaden would have had to have been the same age as King Tari's son if he was killed during threshing.
Correct.
For instance, now I wonder, since we know that Xaden killed King Tari's second son during threshing to protect Garrick, like, I don't know how Dane would have known that Xaden is the one who killed him, because Dane's a year younger and would not have participated in that threshing. But somebody told the younger brother, Eric, that Xaden killed him. And Xaden is kind of wondering how he knows this, because it's obviously not from his dad. So there is a mystery there. But I do wonder, Colonel Atos, like, Xaden definitely knows that he's bad. He is a bad person. And so that might also have to do with his immediate dislike and hatred of Dane too. So.
Like, it might not have been something like outright, like a murder of one of Dane's friends, because that's
that's the conclusion that we jump to, obviously.
This guy, of course we do. But I do think it is way more like sneaky secrets than that. I do think it's more like just outright not trustworthy. I get, like, if Xaden knew how to use his Intensic powers and Dane didn't know how to shield yet, because can they only shield when they've been channeling, or can they? I can't remember.
Yes, as soon as they start channeling, but they don't have to have manifested their power, their signet yet, but they do have to have started channeling.
So Xaden would have had full access to Dane's thoughts and intentions for half a year. So he can learn a lot from that period of time. And I think that's probably a huge part of his anger and frustration towards him as well. And again, not to hark on this too much, but the fact that Xaden in this moment at threshing is not thinking about the Lilith agreement just feels not right. Again, there's so much I love about these chapters, but that little aspect, we just keep using this phrase, like, it feels like they're not talking to each other. That did kind of like raise a, like, he would be thinking about that. He's mentioning how her bravery was as admirable as it was reckless, and he gets infuriated that she would have died right in front of him. And I imagine that this is because of, obviously, he's having budding feelings for her, yada, yada, yada. I do think that it's because of his agreement with Lilith. If she does not survive and she dies on his watch, I would imagine the bargain's off. Lilith would be able to kill every single marked one. So, like, right?
But again, I'm going to bring up my point that he would not have broken their agreement if Violet died during threshing. Later on, Xaden says for the Bonus Xaden, I moved on instinct to protect, and it cuts off, to protect his agreement with Lilith. And Xaden knows better because Violet was within the agreement right to die. And she's like, dude, this is not about your agreement with Lilith. Like, this is something else.
That right there, honestly, that is enough for me to feel like they're talking to each other, at least on a little bit of a level. So that honestly cured a lot of my question marks for this particular scene, especially. I like, even though it's a dash and we don't even get the rest of the ending, I'm like, yep, that's canon. We're good.
That's like what I'm thinking here, yes. At this part of our Fourth Wing deep dive, Nicole and I speculated what happened to make Xaden lose his control when he snaps, well, the fuck aware. And based on what we hear from his POV and how he really started realizing his attraction to Violet, I think we were right in our conclusion that Xaden's freaked out that she almost died out there and that he actually cares about Violet now. Plus, he's definitely a little frustrated that he doesn't have control over this new responsibility just handed to him.
Agreed completely. We get one of these lines and we got so many messages about this one line, and it's, quote, his silence is fucking delicious. The fact that so many people send us messages saying, I read this in your voice, what have you done to me? Brings me so much pride.
Oh, we love it. And I am just obsessed with Xaden narrating Dane. I want an entire book from Xaden's POV narrating Dane's life. Like, Rebecca can do what she wants with his arc. Just give us 3 more books of Xaden. It doesn't even have to be like Xaden around. I just want Xaden's voice narrating Dane's life. Dane can be as much of a Hufflepuff as he wants from here on out, but at least we'll get our chuckles at his expense from the peanut gallery. If anybody has a fanfic out there, please send it to me of just like Dane going about his regular life and it's in Xaden's POV.
I don't need the rest of the story. This is all I need. I just need this. I don't need anything else. I don't need to know about the Bennett. I don't need anything. I just need this.
It would fill this empty Dane hating hole in my heart right now. Like, God fucking damn it, Dane? ? And this would just really cure that for me. Moving forward here, I love how Violet's name feels weird on Xaden's tongue. It is so important to note when Xaden calls her Violet versus Violence throughout all of Fourth Wing. And I just love that little tidbit, how it just like tastes weird on his tongue.
It is interesting how much more he calls her Violet in Iron Flame versus Fourth Wing. So I wonder when that kind of shifted for him. And I have a feeling it was probably when she was laying on the brink of death after Ressin. It's time to debate Xaden being a boob man or an ass man. And it's going to be a short debate because it's very obvious. So I can say with very firm confidence that he is an ass man. Quote, or what her perfect, and that's in italics, by the way, but not for the reason that I normally harp on. It's just
Nicole in her italics.
Or what her perfect ass would feel like in my hands. I also love that every time they make out, or at least I won't say every time, but 99% of the time that they make out, he grabs her ass. And like, it's just like in multiple moments when he grabs her ass. Yes, he, does up to the upper region, but it's always blatantly pointed out when it's her ass. And this is the important information that I needed confirmed in his POV. So thank you, Rebecca. I needed that.
That's why he really had Imogen weight training with her. Total side note here. Our parents had...
Where are you going with this after this conversation that we just started?
Our parents had breakfast with my in-laws the other morning, and my father-in-law was saying, how he started listening to our podcast because he just wanted to know like what it was all about. So he started listening to it, just when he couldn't sleep one night. And our dad was like, "Oh God, you listened to my daughter's potty mouths, huh?" And my father-in-law was like, it was just the right amount of potty mouth. And then he told me later, he's like, "I loved getting to listen to it, but I don't have enough brain cells for shadow daddies, so I'm going to just let you guys handle that."
Good to know that I can't look him in the eyes for a very long time. I'm so glad he didn't get to episode 6. That's all I'll say.
Oh God, no. Anyway, this whole sequence of Dane not answering Xaden, like, oh my gosh, I can't stop talking about Xaden and Dane here. Xaden just going on with his thoughts and checking in every now and then to see if Dane has answered. And it's like, I couldn't stop laughing. I still can't stop laughing. He's just like, oh my God, he still hasn't answered, like as he's just off like in his own thoughts. I just love that so much. I love this whole sequence. Like chapter 16 from Xaden's POV is just one of my new favorite things to read.
Same. This is like the comfort chapter I needed after Iron Flame. It's this one, yes. Definitely.
Xaden already knows Violet with little phrases like, quote, "She looks like someone just shredded her favorite book." He's definitely learned. Like, I know that, Rebecca confirmed that he was certainly not in love with Violet before based on the stories that Brennan has told him. But we definitely know that Brennan has shared some information about his sister, even though he thought that she was going to be a scribe. So Xaden does know Violet much more than she certainly knows him, so that he can say phrases like this, and he knows her in that way. He knows that a book being shredded would absolutely destroy her.
One of the things that when I saw that we were going to get chapter 16, I was so excited about, because I was contemplating during our deep dives during this chapter, what was Garrick coming over to talk to Xaden about? Like, what could it have been? And then I saw that we were getting chapter 16, and I was like, yes, we get to finally find out. And we get, quote, "Any news he has from last night's mission has to wait." And I was like, oh, okay. But here's, first and foremost, the entire quadrant is outside. Why would Garrett be like, "This is a good time to talk about our secret mission"?
I remember when we were thinking, speculating what this could be. We were even like, well, that would be really dumb of Garrett just to go up and talk to him about last night's mission with all, yes, there is a lot of other stuff going on right now. So that maybe with just the chaos of two dragons and blah, blah, blah with bonding, that it would just go unnoticed. But come on, Melgren and Lilith Sorrengail are close by, and they're obviously watching these guys extra closely. Maybe don't say that.
Also, Xaden literally is in Violet's face. Like, why would Garrick be like, oh, there's 2 people over there, I'll go talk to him. Oh, that's Violet. No, like, I do have questions. I'm like, Garrick, you are a very logical person for every other time we see you in these chapters. Not that moment at all. Completely flipping this on a 180 though. This might not be a full-on quote death of me line, but it is still rather troubling. Quote, there is absolutely nothing to dislike about what I see. In fact, if Amari herself ever designed a woman who would be my downfall, well, fuck. Maybe this is exactly what violence is. My downfall. Especially with the Venom cliffhanger that we get. I'm stressed. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I'm so in denial that Xaden's gonna die. I am like burying my head in the sand like a fucking ostrich. I refuse to believe it.
I don't think he's going to die.
I don't think he's going to die permanently.
Oh, yeah.
He will die, but be brought back to life. If he does not get brought back to life, I will not recover.
I want to pull out this one line that I found interesting as Xaden is assuming the Empyrean is going to let Terran be one of the 2 dragons to bond. Quote, they want him back on the battlefield. So this is interesting because it tells us that 1, unbonded dragons don't go to the battlefield. We could have assumed this, but now it's cemented. However, in Iron Flame, the unbonded dragons do go up against the Venom and Wyvern as they're protecting the Veil. So we can note that this is a very unique situation. Obviously, all of it is unique and that the Venom are at Biscayth, but just a fun little fact there. But number 2, which battlefield is Xaden thinking of? The one against the Griffin Flyers or the Venom? Because we know that the Empyrean are divided on whether to help or whether not to help, and thus they cannot move forward about the Venom unless their writers already know. We learn all of this in Iron Flame. So they must know that Tarn supports protecting the innocent, like Sigale and Xaden are doing, and therefore his writer will ultimately choose that same battle when she inevitably finds out from being tethered to Xaden. So I ask again, which battlefield is Xaden thinking of here that the Empyrean are referring to?
The Empyrean referring to, I would assume the Venom battlefield. Leadership referring to, I would assume the Navarian Griffin battlefield.
And which one do you think that Xaden's referring to?
Probably the Venom battlefield.
I just found that very interesting with the, him saying like, oh, the Empyrean, the dragons will want Terran back on the battlefield. They'll all want him back on the battlefield.
You're so smart. You are so intelligent. I would assume Venom, but now my brain is spaghetti and meatballs, so I have absolutely no idea. So I'm going to go to something that at least I have maybe not actually any concrete information about, but we do kind of get confirmation about the scalp prickles here, and then in the Iron Flame Variety interview, which if you guys haven't read, it is phenomenal. We'll link it in the show notes. I know we're referring to it a lot here, but it's because there is so much in that interview. So definitely check it out if you haven't already.
We read it and we're like, oh my gosh, like Rebecca's really just showing her hands right now. I also love it because it's like, oh, well, book three. And I'm just like, geez, was this just a filler book? I even texted Nicole like, oh my God, she's making me wonder like if Iron Flame actually was a filler book. Like obviously it was not, because holy moly, it's quite the book.
But it did kind of seem like it from the interview. I will agree with you on that one. And I'm like, did we read the same book? It was such a cool interview because, again, it really showed me how much Rebecca's got this. And I'm so excited for book 3. But we do get confirmation-ish in that interview that whenever we get that scalp prickle, it is Xaden using his intrinsic powers. This is from Xaden. Quote, I lower my shields just enough to feel for the bond. The hard sapphire one I share with Sigale is locked into place as always. But now there's 2 more. The onyx I recognize as Tarn and the other glimmering strand of silver. So 2 questions really quick. Was he not mind-to-mind connected with Tarn? I thought he would have been.
So I read this as they do have a faint connection, but it has never really been used, especially because Sigale invites him to ask Tarn himself, and he's like, no, he's a surly motherfucker. Like, and he says that, like it kind of hints that he is familiar with it. He recognizes it as Tarn's, but now there's another completely new one. So I think it's just like he's never had any reason to talk to Tarn. He doesn't want to. Like, that's kind of something you just don't really do, but that doesn't mean that it's not already there to be available when and if they ever need it.
That makes a lot of sense. The second part of this is we get, quote, Sorengale looks across the fields at me and I slam my shields back into place. Now this, if you're looking at this side by side in Fourth Wing with Violet's POV, she gets one of those infamous scalp prickles that we've talked about endlessly on the podcast that I first brought up actually, and that's when you mentioned the intrinsic theory, and that's what started an entire somersault down the hill. So where I'm confused about is, does scalp prickle equal intrinsic moment? Rebecca kind of confirmed that in the Variety article. So what I want to do is go back and almost like we did with God fucking damn it Dane, where every time he cups her face, we were like, what does he want to know? Which just feels, I have a lot of feelings about that, but that's for a different podcast. But it does make me want to go back to every scalp prickle moment and be like, oh, what was he learning? And I have a few questions around the timeline, but given the fact that he said he stopped doing it after a certain time, and she did kind of feel a few scalp prickles around these times. So I want to go back and like really cement the timeline of the scalp prickles. That was cool, really cool to see that in action side by side.
So I went back through to Violet's perspective because I was curious to see like what he could have been sensing from her, even though we don't really get it from his point of view here. So Violet's thinking right before his scalp prickles about the unbonded, that the unbonded are going to try to kill one of the bonded, specifically her, because the bonds are weak in these next few months, and because they're going to try to bond her dragon being such a powerful one. And that is when her scalp prickles, and he holds up his finger for target number 1, like it's a response to what she's saying. So again, that goes back to like the intricacies of his intrinsic abilities. She's not really talking about any intentions necessarily. So maybe he couldn't sense any necessarily intentions except her acceptance that she belongs to Taryn and Darna and, quote, in some really fucked up way, Xaden. I do agree that it would have been very nice to get any hint of his intrinsic abilities at work here in his POV, but it does make sense at the end of the book once they're in a relationship, just not at this point.
Here's what I will say in the Variety article, again, mentioning it, but she mentions how there's not an intrinsic alive, at least to our knowledge. So how would we know that he's only able to read intentions? How would he know that that's like, quote unquote, the limit of his ability if there are no other intrinsics alive? So she kind of discredited the whole like I'm a type of intrinsic, and we'll get way more into it when we get into that section of the deep dive because I have a lot to say on it. But here's what I will say now. I think that Xaden is so desperate to think that he's not a full-on intrinsic because that is death sentence. And I think even just like I'm a type of intrinsic just makes it a little easier for him to handle, even though he is literally told absolutely no one, and Rebecca confirmed that in the article. But I thought that was cool of like he's a type of intrinsic, but is he? Or is he just a full-on intrinsic, which would make this moment, because she's not, it doesn't feel like an intention, it would make this moment much more easy to swallow from this is just him reading her mind.
Right. Yeah, how she's thinking in her head about the unbonded going after the newly bonded, and then he holds up his finger. Yep, you are target number 1. So I do think that in some way he was using his intrinsic ability there.
I loved seeing Xaden picking Liam out for Violet's protection. Like, that's not a scene I ever really thought about, but getting to see that in POV was really, really cool. And here's my question, though. Is Garrick the smartest person in this fucking universe?
No, he's not, because we already went on about how he was dumb.
I'm going to look at that as a small blindsided moment because he has a lot of other examples of him being absolutely intelligent, because I know that Violet's like this brilliant fucking woman or whatever, but I am pretty convinced that every time Garrick we've talked to him, except for the time where he came up to Xaden on the flight field almost and just like spilled the beans, but I'm pretty convinced that every time we've talked to Garrick, he's just leveled this intense like prophetic wisdom. Like, I need more Garrick.
And then when they're talking about Liam, quote, everyone likes Liam, so hopefully she will too. Yes, we all love you so much, Liam. R.I.P., my man. I love you so much.
So one of my questions about Xaden assigning Liam to Violet when we were doing our deep dive was, isn't he worried that there's going to be something like, between, especially with how the writers, quote unquote, celebrate in the writers quadrant. And I do love that we get this confirmed that there was like a very small part of him that was like, jealous Xaden is glorious. Speaking of jealous Xaden, though, I love him being jealous of Dane. It's so good. Quote, no doubt he's pilfering through her memories to see if I actually interfered. When we were doing our God fucking damn it Dane deep dives, we thought the exact same thing. So that was cool. That was a very cool moment. But I love in Iron Flame, Dane says he only read her memories on accident. I could go into so many questions. My big one is, was he lying? Because with this moment here with Xaden being like, is he reading her memories right now? It just feels that between that and like cups her face. Yes. Like, I have a lot of uncomfortable feelings around Dane right now. It was so easy to just hate him, and now I don't, and I don't know what to do with myself. But seeing that play out in these chapters of like, what do we believe? And I don't know.
I think that this was a big red flag for me with Dane. Again, I do believe him with his arc and all of that, but I don't believe him that it was only once by accident and that happened to be Athbane. I cannot believe that, especially based on everything else that happened in Fourth Wing. And this moment in particular, like, even though it's not absolute total confirmation, because wouldn't that have been nice if he used his intrinsic ability to tell us that? But I do think that it is as close to a confirmation as we could get that, yes, this God fucking damn it Dane moment did happen. And what does that mean for what Dane says later on in Iron Flame when he says it only happened once by accident? This would have been at least twice.
Rebecca doesn't write anything on accident. And the fact that she is a master at focus for the audience, and the fact that she's directing our focus as readers to him reading her memories in that moment, seeing Dane, back to my jealous Xaden, I love this, seeing Dane kiss Violet from Xaden's POV is perfect. Quote, she looks like she accidentally kissed her cousin.
I'm telling you, we need a whole, just like Dane's life from Xaden's perspective.
I would read that in a heartbeat.
I was laughing out loud during this part. Well, like, obviously this whole chapter, but especially this part. And then guess what? Xaden calls her my violence.
Oh, Squeal Pop. Oh my God, I loved it. Last thing I want to say before we move on to our next big section is timestamp. We get a timestamp for Xaden and Garrick's friendship, which is 20 years. So we know from Iron Flame that Garrick's father was Xaden's father's aide. And it was cool seeing that like timestamp of we've been best friends for 20 years.
And that Garrick is kind of like his Dane, except he's actually trustworthy. Again.
I love that like backhanded.
It was. I loved it so much. Okay, so now we are going to take flight with our favorite moments, which is essentially us just going to be quoting every hilarious part of these two chapters.
Truly.
Quote, the shadows on the mat give her away. I just always love how Xaden is so in tune with his signet and how shadows are like their own living, breathing extension of him.
Yes. Quote, sure, she's beautiful, but I've never let the symmetry of someone's facial features sway me. Fucking romance, Xaden Ryerson. I love it.
And once again, I'm going to bring Kat into it. She is like the most beautiful person of all time, and there's something to it. So anyway.
I hate how much Kat we brought up in this episode. I can't stand her. Xaden's insults.
Oh my gosh, just like about Dane, quote, panicking like the infantry soldier he should have been. We learned in Iron Flame that Violet's past sexual partners are all infantry soldiers. So it's just funny that this would-be partner that she initially really liked, Xaden thinks like he should have been infantry. And then another line here, beat the pompous codex-loving shit out of him. This has got to be what Slytherins say about Percy Weasley.
Absolutely.
And then just other little ones too, like spoiled ass. Like I could go on, and Nicole is about to right now because
I am about to. I have four
funny.
that I just want to like whip out. Hovering like a nanny, little rat, snot-nosed asswipe, and my favorite, limp dick.
Limp dick was actually about the threshing, about the other guys at threshing.
I don't care. It's still good. It's still good. This is a Xaden quote. Seriously, of all the laws I break around here, that's the one he goes with. God, I love Xaden. I love him so much. The rest are just Garrick and Sigale, honestly.
The descriptions of how Sigale talks to Xaden. She and Taryn are both such lecturing, I told you so parents for these two humans. Even how Xaden compares Sigale to Violet with their merciless tongues, and Sigale just loving to remind him that dragons are not concerned with the opinions of the sheep or most humans. Like they are just such a good pair. I love it so much. And quote, I know we already said this, but I have to say it again. Sigale saying, you did not just bring me into this nonsense. Like she was definitely part of it too. And she's just too dignified to say that she was part of it. Like she doesn't want anything to do with this drama. Like, don't you dare put me in with that. Even though it's like, girl, you definitely stirred the pot here.
Oh, she is a pot stirrer. I love her moment when she says, this is cruel even for you. Like I just imagine that so deadpan and I love it. Quote, I think this one might be my favorite one. No, it's my second favorite one. Quote, let's not embarrass each other by letting you finish that sentence.
Like, can you imagine being in the mind of a 20-something-year-old guy and being like a mother hen? Like, oh my gosh, that's the only way to respond to something like that.
Oh my God, I love it so much. Quote, now who's getting mushy? I just love her like little jabs.
On that mushy note here, knowing how mushy Xaden is in Iron Flame, I wonder how much shit she gives him.
I hope it's insane. I need Iron Flame just from Sigale and Terran's perspective. That's what I want. Oh my God. Maybe not the last chapter from Sigale's, because it would just be like all caps curse words for like 45 minutes. Terrifying. But when Xaden is like, I will volunteer for every cold weather mission, she goes, rude, as if your inability to control your own hormones should result in my discomfort.
Tell you what, when my son becomes a teenager, I am totally stealing that line.
Please do. Please do. Oh my God.
Well, friends, that is our Xaden POV chapters from the Fourth Wing Special Edition. We hope you've enjoyed this. We are so excited to start our Iron Flame deep dive soon. And hey, if you're thinking, I'd love to support Fantasy Fangirls, here's how you can do just that. Most of all, becoming a Patreon member.
You will get more content from us. You'll get to connect more with this community through our Discord. There's 2 tiers, and the content includes things like our Discord, like I just mentioned, live monthly Q&As. Lexi and I are actually just about to hop on to our first one. We're so excited. Discounted merch, our outlines, early access to deep dive episodes, and so much more.
We understand that everyone might not be in a position to support, and that's totally fine. We love you anyway. But if you are and you enjoy this content, you want more of it, plus you want to support Nicole, myself, and our growing Fantasy Fangirls team, we would so appreciate you joining that Patreon.
Now, if you're like, you know what, I'm already a part of the Patreon, but I want to go a step further to support my girls, you can order through our Amazon shop. Now, some people have asked, like, oh, does that mean that it's an extra cost to me? Nope, not at all. It is the same cost as it would be if you ordered just from a normal Amazon shop, but a little bit of the proceeds do go to us as Fantasy Fangirls. So you're not only getting that thing you really wanted on Amazon, but you're also helping out one of your favorite podcasts, and we love you for it. Also, you can get your Fantasy Fangirls merch. We have all things from Fourth Wing. You bet we will probably be adding things from Iron Flame as we go through our deep dives, so stay tuned for those. But those God fucking damn it Dane candles, they still last in my brain. They still work. Absolutely. If you want to just set something on fire when it comes to Dane to get some anger out, there you go. There's something that's fireproof safe. But all the links to our Patreon, our Amazon shop, and Fantasy Fangirl merch are all in the show notes or the caption if you're watching on YouTube.
If you're not already, please be sure to follow us on TikTok and Instagram for tons more content at Fantasy Fangirls Pod.
And if you have not already, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast on whatever podcast platform you are watching or listening on. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe. We love you for it. You're amazing. And of course, last but not least, share this with your fellow Fourth Wing and now Iron Flame friends. If you and your friends are just dying to talk about things from this Empyrean series and you cannot wait for our deep dive episodes, this is a great thing for us to talk about, because this is a lot of Iron Flame stuff still that we covered in here. So share this podcast or this YouTube video with your fellow Empyrean friends.
We are so excited to start our Iron Flame deep dive episodes on November 20th or November 19th if you're a dragon writer of our Patreon. While Nicole and I are still finalizing the exact chapter sections for our entire Iron Flame coverage, we will absolutely let you know so that you can follow along. We can tell you that episode 1 will be covering chapters 1 through 6.
Can we tell them the archive section too? Because I'm so excited for it.
Oh, all right.
Lexi is going to be covering the Ryerson house and the ins and outs of it. And I am so excited. So excited.
Yes.
But friends, like Lexi said, we will be posting our full schedule whenever we do have it. But for right now, we will see you for chapters 1 through 6 on either the 19th, if you're a dragon rider, or on the 20th. And we love you all so much. We're so excited.
Bye.
And now, friends, please enjoy some bloopers. Welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls Podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved lore. We're starting that again. I need a drink of water. Hold on. Man, I forgot how spitty I get. I don't know what's happening when I do these. Jesus.
And
were we wasted when we wrote this up?
I don't know. Like,
my good Lord, I've done this before. Quote, no doubt he's pifling.
Be sure to follow us on TikTok and if you're
Instagram.
not